Welcome to HockeyShare. We're here today with Chris Economou, Eric Hoffberg, and I'm Kevin Muller, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing. Well, more specifically, Econ's going to tell us a little bit about what he's seeing in the NHL playoffs right now in terms of the goaltending, and it's obviously a very exciting time of year, and there's a lot of action intensity going on. So we thought, what better way than to get some good perspective on it than ask a goalie guy. So Econ, what are you seeing right now in the playoffs? What's exciting?
Well, there's the main thing that I've seen thus far is how early they'll be able to pull the goalie. If, like Patrick Roy pulled the goalie 3 minutes to go and broke the rules. Basically, for years it's been, oh, with a minute to go, we'll pull the goalie and we'll see if we can tie it up. And here comes Patrick Roy, goalie, now coach, says, well, I'm going to break that rule, and with 3 minutes to go, he says, I'm going to give my team a chance to tie this up. And everyone has followed suit, and you've seen more guys, or more coaches, I should say, pull the goalie with anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes to go. And does it really matter if you lose by 4 or lose by 1? It doesn't matter in the playoffs. So the bottom line is coaches need to give their team a chance to win, and by pulling the goalie a little bit earlier, it gives your team more time to sustain pressure and the other end. So I love the change, and I feel like that is something that is going to stay for years to come.
Yeah. Yeah, Hoff, you had an interesting perspective on on why you think that particular team did that, right? And you and I just finished filming some stuff for a program we've got called A Different Approach, and we talked a lot about team culture, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on why that made sense to see what Patrick Roy did in that situation.
Well, when we were talking offline, and Econ, brought up this great point, right off the bat, I'm thinking about, okay, so that's a really interesting perspective, because we're talking about, the Hall of Fame goaltender Patrick Roy and him having this sensation probably when he was in net. If we're down by 1 or 2, get me out, and so he has that perspective because he's an ex-goalie. He's not the first head coach to, that is an ex-goalie, but he's certainly one of the most known head coaches that is an ex-goalie. So I felt something around that. But the other thing I felt was around culture, and that, that's any team that Patrick Roy is coaching is a culture of swagger. It's a culture of, we're not gonna hold back and hope that we can beat you and hope that things go well. We're gonna push the envelope. We're gonna get in your face and we're gonna come after you. And so it is a representation of culture, and it made me feel like wanting to say to all those coaches out there that are checking out something here with us on HockeyShare. If you've got this bold culture, it should show up in even this decision. And that's what Econ's saying is that make your decision. Don't feel that there's a rule. Like he said, he broke the rule, right? And so Econ instantly referred to it as a rule. So, there are no rules. It's up to you, coach, what's going on. And if you have a culture of swagger, if you have a culture of like, we're going to bring it and we're going to get after you, then you're probably that coach that wants to do that. And in a way, I think Econ is saying, do it. Go ahead and do it. What's wrong with that? So, and I think that you also, Kevin, talked a little bit about, you got to make the read here, though. Because there's going to be some things that are maybe around momentum. Where are we at? What was happening on the recent shift? We definitely don't. I think as a former head coach, I don't want to make that move and have my boys feel that I'm too desperate. I want to make that move and have my boys feel that he feels we're going to score. He believes in us right now.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make that decision from a place of confidence, right? And something that your team can feel that as well. Desperation's a great way of putting it. You don't want it to feel that. I mean, obviously, when you're pulling the goalie, there's a certain level of desperation, but you don't want it to turn into a negative feeling. You want it to be something where you make that decision, the guys know why you're making that decision, and you have to read the momentum of the game. Obviously, if you just spent the last 90 seconds bottled up in your zone, that may not be the best time, to get something going. But if you're pressing, maybe you spent 90 seconds in their zone, and you've got that momentum, and you're pressing, and you're, maybe you hit a post or a big save against you or something like that. Well, you've got that sort of that energy, that excitement. And there's a great opportunity as a head coach to build on that and maybe take a chance in this this scenario, and NHL is a great example. And again, it doesn't matter 5-1, 2-1, it's the same thing, right?
Here we come, boys. I'm going to pull them now. We're going to get this right now, fellas. Here we go. I want to do this now. And so, now it's on, and I love it. I think, Econ, that's a great point. Go ahead.
So the next point that I want to make is I've seen multiple goalies get pulled. And Jonathan Quick, supposedly one of the best goalies in the world, if not the best goalie, right? Getting pulled from a game. Guys, they're not afraid to pull the goalie. If the goalie's playing bad, you get them out of there and put in your other goalie.
So switch goalies, not goalies for the extra attacker. Actually take one guy, other guy in. Yeah,
absolutely. And what I think is the coach has to be really mindful of how his guys are playing. There's a saying, your best players need to be your best players. Well, if they aren't being your best players, you need to get them out of there. And whoever's playing the best should be in goal. And be more open-minded to that. Goaltending, there are so many good goalies in the NHL now that it's not that it doesn't matter, but anyone can get the job done. And if they're playing well, you got to go with it. The team's more important than one person, and it's important for the coach to say, whatever we need to do to win, we're going to do. So just because a guy's so-called your number one goalie, that doesn't mean that if he's having a bad day that he should just stay in there. So that mindset needs to change a little bit too, and it sort of has.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if I think about it, from a head coach perspective, your job is to identify who's performing on any given night. And typically in that mindset, you're talking about the skaters rather than the goaltender, right? But your job is to figure out, who do I put in this scenario? Maybe we got a power play coming up. Well, maybe one of my third line guys has a hot hand tonight. He's going to get a look on that, right? That's your job, is to make that identification. And so I agree. Kind of, it's a good habit to be in with your goaltenders as well. If just because you've been number one for the last 4 games doesn't mean that right now you're playing like a number one goalie. So we need to make that adjustment.
Yeah, it's got well. Geez, how about the talk around Bruce Boudreau taking this big chance to put Gibson in, bring him up, with no playoff experience and that, and I think all three of us felt like, again, as we were talking offline, that that wasn't really that big a risk. This is a guy that, he kind of said he's been on the biggest stages. He's played internationally, and he's a high talent and that. And to me, that just felt like what he kind of saying is that what Bruce Boudreau did there is that, and this is again what he kind of saying is, coach, break the myth. Don't go with the rules. You don't have to, because it's become such this thing, Econ. If you heard it like in the last 10, 15 years, it's like every coach believes this thing, this mythological legend that going into the postseason, you got to hang your hat on one guy and then you just go with him no matter what. And I guess what you're saying is don't do that. You might end up going with that guy no matter what, but don't do it just because there's no other way to decide. Be willing to make any decision that you want to make around your goaltender, particularly if you have depth there, and just go with another guy. Just change your goaltender and not feel stuck in this idea that I got to just go with one guy and then that's it. I think, as I think about this point that you're making, I'm thinking about a couple of other, like at the minor pro level, where I think that might have cost the team, that they had a really good goalie that they could have put in down 2-0. You would have never known what would have happened. But yet, I think that coach stayed stuck, that he just had to go with one guy. And I think it's a great point. I love your point, Kevin, too. Treat your goalie like you treat any other decision, right? Who's going well and who isn't, and that's your responsibility, right? You got to decide.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you owe that to your team, and especially obviously at the very high competitive levels, you're trying to figure out ways to win the game, and in that process, yeah, one guy might get less ice time, but that's what it is. It's about, how do we find that way to win? How do we be the most competitive we can be? And that's right. I agree. That's a great way of summarizing it. Treat the goalie like your player when you're making that decision.
Right. I love it. Good.
Yeah. So through the playoffs, Econ, what are a couple things that, I think head coaches out there, a lot of times, myself included, we're not 100% sure what to tell our goalies and how to talk to our goalies. And so there's so much cool stuff going on in the playoffs right now. What are some pieces that we can be telling our goaltenders that'll help them, watch for this, look at this, who's doing what? What's going to be helpful for a head coach out there?
Well, one thing I've noticed this playoffs is technical aspect of the game, guys are not breaking up centering passes like they used to. And it's because of how the position has evolved, where they're going down and they're sealing the ice and they're up against the post. They're just allowing the puck to be passed through their limits, and then they're trying to make the save. In the old days, I mean, guys are breaking up centering passes, getting their stick involved, and now it's not even a thought, which is crazy to me. You know, like that would be a better save to break up that centering pass than to let the pass go right to the hash marks and then make a glove save. I mean, why would you make your life so difficult as a goaltender? And the guys that are on the ground don't really do that. I mean, I've seen so many pucks past 6 inches from a goalie's stick, and I mean, even right through their skates, like right next to their skates, and they're just allowing the puck to go out front for these great chances. And it just seems crazy to me that these goalie coaches are allowing that or not picking that out. But I've seen probably about 5 to 7 situations in the past couple of days where I said, my God, that should be an easy breakup. So that's one thing.
That's a great point. And, you know, Kevin, you were just even, when we were again talking offline, we were talking about how, you know, as a head coach, how easy it would be to incorporate some of that skill training for the goaltender in a non-goalie drill. Just you know, set up a drill. Maybe you've got some battle stuff down low. Start it with a hard cross-ice pass and give your goalie the chance to make a decision. Can you get to that or not? And then play from there or something. But it's definitely something that we can look for as head coaches. Yeah,
no, definitely. And, you know, I guess, Econ, I'll defer to you on this one. But, you know, is part of that you know, that mentality of position, you know, this is how I move, this is technically how I'm supposed to move, versus that sort of reaction and just being in the moment and fighting for it? Is that part of the issue why we're not seeing those blocked passes?
Well, there's there's really only 2 types of saves. There's reactionary saves and then there's blocking saves. So if you get caught into a blocking save, some guys inside blocking saves will get locked and then they don't move. And they say, well, I'm just going to stay here, and if it hits me, it hits me. So the guys who have the ability to be dynamic and go back and forth and manage those situations will have a better chance at being able to break that up, or have the thought or the preparation of being in position to do that. So, I mean, I'm looking at it like it's almost like a lost art.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of, when I'm watching, I'm thinking about, and I work with a lot of goaltenders privately one-to-one because I'm their mental toughness coach, and I'm asking, you know, guys to watch, you know, the non-pro guys, I'm asking them to watch what's going on and then to, you know, to give me some feedback. What are you seeing? What can you be doing better? And one of the things that's going on in those conversations that I'm noticing as well and getting good feedback on from certain guys is just the play, you know, that's going on. You know, do we talk about it like from the ice? You know, when we're actually, you know, down with traffic, making those multiple saves, being athletic. Can you, like, what should we be looking for there? Like, if I'm a head coach right now and I'm coaching 2000s or something, what do I want my goalies to see there? What would we be pointing out? What's some good language, Econ, you know, for me to reinforce right now? What's happening there?
Well, everything,
hands up and active hands, and
you're always trying, like a saying that we have is, you're always trying to fill space. So it's not just being in position. You're trying to be compact. If it's a bad angle play, you're closing up. You're trying to not lock your body, but you're blocking, not locking. And you're always trying to fill space. So, like, you'll see guys do one leg up, and then they'll put their hand up to fill space. Yeah. Obviously, when the puck moves to the grade A, they spread their arms out a little bit, and their arms are in front of them. That's to appear bigger and fill more space, to kill aerial angle. The game is going in that direction. You're always trying to fill space in some way, shape, or form. Right.
I used to spray paint when I was coaching at RIT in the 90s. I used to spray paint an area right in front of the crease, and I'd fill it up with like 3 defenders and 4 guys on offense and just keep throwing pucks in there. you know, to make them battle there in front, but it was also such a good drill for the goalies, you know, to work on just clearing pucks or just diving and covering pucks. And it makes me feel like, as I'm watching these NHL guys, that some of our youth coaches should be giving more to their goalies around, you know, traffic types of situations and just getting pucks away from the grade A, which is sort of like the same thing as blocking passes, be more active, and then covering, diving and covering, you know, even when the pressure's around you. Because at the NHL level, I'm seeing these guys, if you don't know what's going on out there, you don't know what guts it takes to be these goalies going and covering these pucks with all these guys around you. You know, thinking about like Carey Price, when the Bruins get around his net, just the battling that's going on, and that there's the great job that he's doing in freezing pucks and things like that, and active hands and being athletic.
Well, and the goalies that are being really successful and having unbelievable games, those teams are not getting traffic in front of those goalies.
Right.
Every NHL goalie is going to stop what he can see. I mean, Quick has struggled the past few games. They're getting right in his grill, and they're getting into him. The same thing with Rask. If you get in front of Rask, it makes his job really difficult. I think Subban scored a goal from the point where he had no idea. They had 4 guys in front of the net. He can't see the puck. I mean, you give yourself a chance to score. So I've seen more traffic in these playoffs, and it's been really exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and probably as a last point here, Econ, what are you seeing in terms of like goalie leadership, and like how does that dynamic play into the full team, right? Like, is the goalie the leader? Is he the guy? Does that make that team that much better?
Well, absolutely, the goalie's the leader. I mean, if you're stopping, you don't need a C on your jersey to be the leader of the team. Goalies lead by example, and if you're out there and you're stopping pucks and you're competing and going to war for your team, everyone knows that. And basically that's their job. They don't have to be a politician. They just need to go in there and battle for the team.
I think if the Rangers beat the Penguins, it isn't just because Lundqvist was better. I think if the Rangers beat the Penguins, one of the things that we would have to talk about is that there was more leadership coming from that end of the ice, from that goalie, than there was, you know, from the other goalie. What were you saying before about consistency? You know,
the consistency starts with tracking.
Yeah.
And tracking is a skill that you have to be focused on. I mean, if you take your eyes off the puck for 1 second, or you don't recognize a situation that's about to happen, and you're not aware of things that are going on, and you're not tracking the plays, the puck, and everything, you're not going to be consistent. You're not. I mean, you're at the mercy of the shooter. These guys are so good now and the sticks technology is so good that you really don't have the time. You have to almost have this sixth sense of what's going on and keep on tracking every single thing in front of you. You can only rest when they blow the whistle.
Yeah.
You can take a little break from it.
Yeah. I think tracking is leadership, because if you're being a leader, then you're present and you're in the moment. Yeah. And then your tracking skills are high in that. And so I think one of the call-outs here, Kevin, would just be, if I'm a coach right now and I've got my team picked and, you know, we're doing some springtime and early summer workouts, getting ready for next year, I think that I want to reinforce with my goaltenders, you know, that you're a leader, and that one of the things that you should be learning from watching the NHL is how much these guys put up on their back, and that they are leaders in that. Yeah?
Yep. Oh, there's no question.
Here's another point, too. I mean, they said this about Gretzky. What was great about Gretzky? He had unbelievable vision. I mean, it's no different. It's the same thing. His vision for the plays. Goaltenders are the same thing. Your vision, how you react to the situations, it's one and the same.
Interesting stuff. And this all brings back to, there's so much to learn by watching hockey at a high level, and really watching like a professional, and watching with an intention versus sitting back with a bag of chips, a can of soda, and, you know, feet up, and, you know, sometimes you pay attention in between text messages. You know, pay attention and watch, and it's amazing, like these little details, right? I mean, these are things that anybody can see. They're tough to identify, but if you're paying attention and you're being a student of the game, these are the important things. So the video process is a big process, and we have access like we've never had to some of this technology. I mean, you can watch every goal scored on NHL.com these days. It's awesome. But great stuff. Chris Economou, thank you. Eric Hoffberg, thank you. Till next time, we'll see you at GoalieShare at HockeyShare.com.